For nearly 3 years, the world watched Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's love story unfold like a modern-day fairy tale. Then came the wedding everyone had been waiting for. Millions saw the photographs, the celebrity guests, and the unforgettable moments. But the most meaningful parts of the ceremony weren't the ones making headlines. They were the quiet details, hidden traditions, and deeply personal choices that revealed who Taylor and Travis really are as a couple. And once you notice them, the celebration feels completely different. The night everything finally happened. For almost 2 years, the whole world had been guessing about this exact night, and every single guess turned out to be part right and mostly wrong. On the evening of the 3rd of July, inside a Madison Square Garden that had been stripped of every camera and every leak, Taylor Swift walked toward Travis Kelce and finally became his wife. The people who love following her every move found out the way the rest of us did, in pieces from a short statement and a handful of images that slipped out afterward. Doors had opened earlier that afternoon, and guests were funneled inside through a covered tent so that not a single long lens could catch what waited within. For a woman who has spent her whole life performing for the largest audiences on the planet, this was the rare night she performed for no one at all. The man standing between the two of them, holding the whole ceremony together, was not a priest or a hired officiant. It was Adam Sandler, and I will get to exactly why that choice makes more sense than it first sounds. When he finally said the words that made them husband and wife, the arena did not stay quiet for long. The enormous screens that wrap around the outside of the building lit up with a glowing pink message that read "Just He Married," and the garden posted 3 small words online that hit every longtime fan right in the chest. The message read simply, "It's a love story," a direct wink to the song that turned her into a superstar back in 2008. Roughly 1,000 people were inside to see it, and not one of them managed to spoil the biggest secret of the night before Taylor was ready. That level of control over a crowd that size is almost unheard of, and it tells you something about how much this couple wanted this moment to belong to them and nobody else. The guest list alone read like an award show, yet the real shock of the evening had nothing to do with the celebrities in those seats. It had everything to do with what Taylor chose to wear, and the 2 people she asked to stand closest to her when it mattered most. The dress the world waited 2 years to see. When you have been the most photographed woman on the planet for the better part of a decade, there is really only one question that follows you toward an altar. And that question is what she would wear. Taylor kept that answer locked away with the same discipline she used on everything else. And when the truth came out, it came straight from Paris. Her wedding looks were created by Christian Dior Haute Couture and designed by Jonathan Anderson, the creative director who now guides Dior across women's, men's, and couture. The pieces were built by hand inside the Dior ateliers at 30 Avenue Montaigne, the same address that has dressed royalty and old Hollywood for generations. For weeks, every fashion writer in the world had been placing bets on which house would dress her, and the silence around it had become almost unbearable for the people who track these things. When the confirmation finally arrived from the ateliers in Paris, it did not come with a single photograph attached, which only made the hunger for it worse. This was the first couture wedding dress the designer had ever created for a celebrity known around the world. Think about what that means for a second, because Taylor did not just order a beautiful gown off a rack of options. She became a first, a name that a legendary house will now point to forever. Her shoes were made just for her by Christian Louboutin, and she finished the whole look with jewelry from Cartier. Travis was dressed by the same house, tied to her in fabric before they were ever tied together in vows. Even the ring she wore had a story most people rushed past. The diamond Travis proposed with was an old mine cut, an antique style with soft rounded edges and a warm, candlelit sparkle that modern stones simply do not have. He designed it himself alongside Kindred Lubeck at Artifacts Fine Jewelry in New York City, a goldsmith and vintage collector who hand engraves her work. He did not buy the easy or obvious thing, and instead he built something that looked like it had already lived 100 years, which is a strange and beautiful choice for a man marrying a woman obsessed with history and meaning. And yet the biggest surprise of the whole wedding was not stitched into a dress or set into a ring at all. It was standing in human form right beside the bride. Brothers instead of bridesmaids. Taylor Swift built the most famous friend group in modern pop culture. For over 10 years, we watched her surround herself with supermodels, actresses, and singers, the group the internet simply called the Squad. So when the wedding approached, the guessing turned obsessive. Everyone wanted to know which A-list names would earn a spot as her bridesmaids, who would make the cut, and who would be left stinging on the outside. Then her own representative released a statement that stopped the noise cold. Taylor and Travis did not have bridesmaids or groomsmen at all. Instead, her younger brother Austin Swift served as her man of honor, and Travis's older brother Jason Kelce stood as his best man. The ceremony, the statement said, joined both families together. Read that again slowly, because the woman who could have had any celebrity on earth walk beside her looked at that entire glittering world and chose blood instead. Austin is not just her brother. He is the person she is credited with helping her win back the master recordings of her own music in 2025, the fight that defined years of her life. For a decade, the smart money said her wedding party would look like the cast of one of her music videos, packed with models and movie stars. She looked at that expectation and walked in the opposite direction. He worked behind the camera on some of her most beloved music videos, including You Belong With Me and Mean, and he helped shape her quieter, creative projects too. He even sat with her on the Folklore Long Pond studio project, the stripped-back film where she pulled her own songs apart in front of the world. According to Cosmopolitan, the two of them have always been unusually tight, and she has slipped his name into her lyrics more than once over the years. Years ago, when she released the album Evermore, Austin wrote something about her that has stayed with fans ever since. As a brother and a friend, he said he could not be more proud, and as a lifelong fan, he was simply dumbfounded at that level of artistry. Jason meant exactly the same thing on the other side of the aisle. He and Travis host their podcast together. They built an empire out of their brotherhood, and Travis had already stood as Jason's best man when Jason married his wife Kylie back in 2018. So this was Travis returning a favor that runs bone deep. 2 brothers, 2 families, 0 celebrity politics. And the man chosen to marry them understood that kind of loyalty better than almost anyone in that room, because his own connection to this couple had been quietly building for years. Why Adam Sandler was the only choice. On paper, asking Adam Sandler to officiate your wedding sounds like a punchline waiting to happen. Once you understand how deep his history with these two actually goes, it stops being funny and starts feeling almost inevitable. Sandler and Travis grew genuinely close while filming the sequel to Happy Gilmore, where the chief star landed a cameo. Travis could barely contain himself talking about it afterward. Working with Happy Gilmore himself, he said on the Pat McAfee show, working with the Sandman, it was off the chain. He called the whole experience a dream come true. The affection ran both directions, and Sandler did not hold back either. Travis is such a gentle, nice guy, and funny as hell, he told Entertainment Tonight. He is like the guys I grew up with. He said being around Travis reminded him of his childhood friends, and he called the man a stud, a great actor, and a great loves most his daughters. Sadie and Sonny Sandler are devoted fans, and their dad took them to see the Eras tour film back in 2023, where the whole family got to meet her. Sandler has admitted, with total honesty, that even after all these years, he still gets nervous around her. I can get a little jumpy around Taylor, he confessed on Conan O'Brien's podcast, just because I do not want to blow it for my kids. There's not a word my kids do not know, he added about her music. He has even compared her run of hits to the Beatles, and he told Billboard that his favorite song of hers is The Best Day, a tender track about family that fits this whole story a little too perfectly. His girls know every single word to every single album, and he listens along on release day like it is a holiday. So when this couple needed someone to hold the most important night of their lives in his hands, they did not hire a stranger. They chose the man who already felt like family to both of them. And the moment those doors opened, the flood of famous faces walking in revealed who mattered to Taylor, and just as loudly, who no longer did. The guests who came and the ones who vanished. The arrivals alone could have carried their own television special. Selena Gomez, Taylor's closest friend, turned up glowing. Gigi Hadid and Bradley Cooper rolled in together. Hugh Grant arrived with his wife, The British host Graham Norton made it through the doors after Taylor once jokingly invited him on his own show, and Ethan Hawke, Dakota Johnson, and Jason Sudeikis were all photographed heading inside. The Haim sisters came as a trio, and Taylor's longtime collaborator Jack Antonoff arrived along with the writer Lena Dunham. Country music arrived in a wave of its own, with Miranda Lambert, Kelsey Ballerini, Brad Paisley, and Kimberly Schlapman all making the trip. The broadcast booth emptied out too, as Joe Buck Aaron Andrews and Carissa Thompson turned up alongside the actress Mariska Hargitay, the musician known as MGK, and the tireless soccer champion Abby Wambach with her wife, the writer Glennon Doyle. The sports world showed up in force too, which makes sense for a groom of Travis's stature. Quarterback Matthew Stafford came with his wife Kelly. Tite and George Kittle made the trip, and a wave of Kelsey's teammates and rivals filled out the crowd. One small detail from Kittle stuck with me, because it says everything about this couple. He revealed that Taylor and Travis had told their guests absolutely no gifts because they did not want a single thing, since they had each other, and that was the entire point. The absences, though, spoke just as loudly as the arrivals. Harry Styles, a former flame of Taylor's, was nowhere near New York because he was performing in London that night. Far more telling was the missing pair everyone noticed, Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds. Once one of Taylor's tightest bonds, Blake was reportedly left off the celebration entirely, tied to the fallout from her legal battle with Justin. And that is not celebrity politeness. That is a guy talking about someone he genuinely likes. His bond with Taylor stretches back even further, and it flows through the two people he. Baldoni, a case in which Taylor's own name kept surfacing. And then there was Karlie Kloss, the supermodel who was once practically Taylor's shadow before the two drifted into years of cold distance. She was there anyway, a quiet signal that some doors, even after long silence, can still open again. Keeping this many powerful people safe and comfortable would have been hard on any night. Doing it during a heat wave the government literally called deadly turned this wedding into something closer to a military operation. A city on lockdown and a price tag to match. The couple reportedly filed permits to shut down the streets around Madison Square Garden for 3 full days, from the 2nd of July through the 4th. New York City, the hardest city on earth to control, bent itself around one wedding. The plans were so large that the NYPD commissioner and even the mayor ended up referencing them in public before the couple was ready to say a word. Then nature itself tried to crash the party, because a brutal heat wave settled over New York, and the National Weather Service issued a warning that did not mince words. The heat index was climbing toward 115 degrees, a level the agency said could be deadly for anyone without cooling and water. So the couple did what only this couple could do. They had portable air conditioning units delivered straight to the arena, wheeled in while the city baked outside. The whole event was estimated to cost more than $20 million, with security swallowing a huge share of that figure. The night before the main event, they gathered around 100 of their closest people for a seated rehearsal dinner inside the same building. Videos that escaped online showed a space softened with peach-colored blooms and green foliage, warm and intimate in a way the giant celebration could never be. Taylor even brought in one of her favorite New York restaurants to feed everyone. When that dinner finally wrapped, the bride was spotted slipping home at around midnight, stealing a few last quiet hours before her whole life changed forever. Meanwhile, out in the rest of the city, her collaborators and friends kept getting caught by cameras, from Ed Sheeran dining upstate to Sabrina Carpenter tucked into a spot in the West Village. The whole town suddenly thick with famous names. And the music was rumored to be its own event, with cases belonging to Bon Jovi spotted rolling into the venue, and whispers that Stevie Nicks and Tim McGraw might take the stage. Every piece of it had been planned down to the smallest thread, which is exactly why the date they chose was never an accident. And once you understand the meaning hidden inside it, the whole wedding reads differently. The hidden meaning behind the date. Taylor Swift does not pick dates by throwing a dart at a calendar, and every fan who has followed her for more than a week knows it. She has said it plainly herself. "I love numerology," she told Travis and Jason on their podcast. "I love math stuff. I love dates. That stuff I find really fun. So the second the engagement went public, her fans became detectives, convinced that whatever day she chose would be soaked in hidden meaning. They were right about the obsession and wrong about almost every specific guess, which is precisely how Taylor likes it. She had actually announced her 12th album, The Life of a Showgirl, on that very same podcast appearance where she gushed about him, calling him a human exclamation point. So the fans knew better than to expect anything from this couple to be ordinary or accidental. The engagement itself had been pure Taylor, because back on the 26th of August in 2025, the couple posted a joint photo from a proposal wrapped in flowers, with a caption that made millions of people laugh out loud. "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married," it read. That single post pulled in more than 37 million likes. Choosing to marry on the 3rd of July, the night before America stops for its biggest holiday, put the entire country's attention on them at once. And not everyone loved it. Some people online grumbled about the street closures, the cost, and the timing landing on a national weekend. And that friction became its own small storm in the comments. There was one more twist that almost slipped by unnoticed, and it is the kind of detail that makes this whole thing feel bigger than a wedding. On the very same day Taylor married Travis, the brothers released a New Heights podcast episode featuring Prince William, the future King of England, as their guest. A future monarch and the biggest pop star alive, orbiting the same family on the same day. That is the world Taylor and Travis now live in, and yet, when the actual moment arrived, they stripped all of it away. There were no bridesmaids pulled from a magazine cover, and there was no broadcast beamed out to the watching world. Instead, there were just two brothers, two families, an old friend to marry them, and a diamond that looked 100 years old. For all the money and all the fame, the most powerful choice Taylor Swift made on her wedding day was her quiet decision to keep it small and to make it entirely hers. Tell me in the comments whether Taylor choosing family over her famous friends made you feel closer to her, because it quietly changed the way I see her too.